Now up until this point I've been pretty happy with what Ineos have done, but for me this is the first red flag. Why, if you are planning on keeping the manager, are you taking 2 weeks to do an end of season review? You should have been doing the end of season review in the last 1 to 2 months of the season and then making the decision straight after the season as to whether Ten Hag should keep his job. It should essentially already be made after the Premier League season, as if the answer is to fire him, you can't let one game against Manchester City, playing a style of play that we aren't usually going to use, massively swing your decision either way. That's just riding on emotion. I think this means that Ineos aren't really set up to make these sorts of decisions yet, because they should already have a fairly good idea of which style of play they want to use, which apparently was an aggressive pressing and possession dominant style according to Jason Wilcox, which if that is the case leads me to question why, according to reports, if they are true of course, were United considering managers like Thomas Frank, Ten Hag and Southgate over managers like Sebastian Hoeneß at Stuttgart, Motta at Bologna and De Zerbi at Brighton. If it takes 2 weeks at the end of the season to come to a decision on whether to keep Ten Hag, how long is it going to take to complete transfers? By the end of Euro 2024 we should have at least 3 transfers done, 6 by the start of August and 10 by the end of the transfer window, because we need at least 3 or 4 defenders alone. We need 2 starters at left back and right sided centre back, as well as a backup centre back and right back. It's obvious that Maguire, Evans and Lindelof cannot function in the Ten Hag system if he doesn't want to compromise the press or move to a back 5, and so alongside replacing Varane and Wan-Bissaka, you probably need a starting left back, as with Ten Hag staying, Luke Shaw has to go, as a style of play and training is only going to put injury prone players under more intensity, and so he has to be replaced with a starting left back, and given that you'd only have Martinez, a Varane replacement and Cambuala as centre back options, you really need another centre back as well. That's 4 signings, which alongside replacing Bayındır as the backup goalkeeper to Onana with him likely to leave, is 5 new signings before we even get to the midfield. But before I get on to the midfield, if you like me are excited for the upcoming Euros, go over to Jersey FIFA, they've got all the Euro 2024 jerseys, the new season shirts when they are released, as well as retro jerseys from international and club sides as well. If you use code Atlantis you'll get a discount, a link will be in my Instagram bio which I will leave linked in the description. Now I have got a video out soon, if it is out I'll leave it linked below, on why Manchester United shouldn't sign Todibo and should sign one of 3 centre backs instead. And the reason for this is because with Ten Hag seemingly refusing to adjust his pressing system, we absolutely need 3 players in the back line who can go man for man with the opposition on the halfway line. Dalot can certainly do this, but I think Martinez is better pushing up vertically up the pitch rather than shifting out wide, which means United need a centre back who is not only physically and aerially dominant, positionally excellent, strong in the tackle and a good reader of the game, but also a player with the ball playing abilities to not be a liability when United are playing out from the back against high pressure. I also think that when it comes to signing a starting left back and a backup right back to Dalot, United need to prioritise versatility, so that either of the 2 fullback signings can shift in field and be used as a centre back if needed, or as wide centre backs in a back 3. In the midfield we need an industrious but technically astute central midfielder brought in to partner Mainoo, but also another alternative central midfielder who provides a combination of ball carrying and defensive capabilities. Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes can play either ahead of a double pivot or in a midfield 3 ahead of a single pivot, but I also think Ten Hag has to start to transition Mount into roles in deeper areas of the pitch, as without doubt he has the passing range, press resistance, work ethic, tactical IQ and athleticism to eventually convert to a more natural central midfielder, just like how players like Bastian Schweinsteiger, Santi Cazorla, Pascal Gross and Alexis McAllister have been able to do. Alongside this set of 5 senior central midfielders, I also want to see Toby Collier and Maxi Oyedele in the squad being given a decent amount of minutes, or if not both then at least one alongside someone like Dan Gore. Ten Hag has to give youth more opportunities. Giving Garnacho and Mainoo opportunities is not giving youth a chance, as they are clearly better than the more senior players in those starting positions, and let's be real, it's not that hard to be better than Casemiro and Antony over the past year or so. Giving youth a chance would have been at the very least giving Alvaro Fernandez and James Gore more minutes before allowing them to leave, and starting Antony over Ahmad can categorically not happen next season, as really and truly Ahmad should have been given a lot more minutes last season than he was. And so that's 7 new signings before we even get to the front line, as I also think United need a starting winger to play ahead of Ahmad on the right, as well as players who can play ahead of Garnacho on the left and Højlund up front. Yes, all 3 have the potential to be United's starting front 3 in the future, but none of them at this stage in their career are consistent enough to be starting players for a top 3 side. We 100% should be the best of the rest behind Manchester City and Arsenal next season, absolutely no questions, and I just think going into the season with these young, talented, but inconsistent and somewhat unproven youngsters as the starting players to be relied upon for the whole season does not fill me with a lot of confidence. I think we need a right winger who has a versatile enough skill set to allow Ten Hag to shift between systems and shapes, which is something he has to start doing, whilst United also need a dependable upgrade on Højlund's current ability, who also fits what Ten Hag's system needs stylistically, alongside a Rashford replacement, not just a fancy name that fans have decided is the next Messiah and the solution to all our problems for £100 million. That's a total of 10 players, which really shouldn't be considered unrealistic at all. Ineos have the so-called best in class, so they should be able to get 10 incomings alongside the sellings over the course of the next 10 weeks or so, because they've basically had the last 6 months to prepare, and so I won't be lowering my standards for either the board, transfer team or manager. Next season my expectations are that we are comfortably the best of the rest, behind only Arsenal and Manchester City, and not just in terms of the league position, but also in terms of the eye test and underlying numbers like X points, XG, XG against and XG difference as well.